Hello. I would like to talk to you today about the philosophy of Ayn Rand, and specifically what I see as the benefits or the positive aspects of her philosophy. Now, granted, she is getting a lot of hate these days. Lots of people like to rip on Ayn Rand, saying that she was a bad philosopher or bad writer or a bad human being. And this video is mainly to point out the things she had to offer, because honestly, anyone can point out the things that she did wrong. I think her whole man qua man thing, anyway, there's lots of parts of her philosophy, if you're not familiar with her philosophy, that are a little bit bunk, that don't really make any sense, but there is some value to what she's saying. And I want to talk about those specific aspects. Basically what she's saying is that in this world, in reality, we're always expected to lay down our life, to dedicate our life, our existence, all of our energy to some greater good. We're expected to serve God, or serve our government, or serve our nation, or serve our country, whatever, serve our race, serve our group of people, whatever that happens to be. And Ayn Rand is simply questioning why. That's really the premise, that's the basis of her virtue of selfishness idea. What she's saying is that, yes, human beings are beautiful, they're amazing, these creatures are just phenomenal, their intellect, their emotional capacity, like we are beautiful creatures on this planet. But the idea that you should simply serve others to be moral is a flawed idea, because you yourself are one of these amazing creatures. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to do things for yourself and wanting to make yourself happy, first of all. And that's what she meant by the virtue of selfishness. Now, I don't believe that there is any virtue in selfishness. I believe we are inherently egocentric, we're inherently ego-driven. We tend to inevitably do things for ourselves. Even if we want to help someone across the street, it's because we want to do it. And so in that sense, we're always a little bit egocentric, and that's what the whole philosophy of egoism is about. And this isn't exclusive to Ayn Rand's philosophy. Many people talked about this, like Nietzsche and Max Stirner. They all predate Ayn Rand by many, many decades. But anyway, she wasn't simply saying that being selfish is good. Sometimes it sounded like that, and honestly, I think lots of her philosophy in terms of ethics is fairly strange, and it doesn't have a lot of basis, I think, but honestly, I think it's very true that we are expected all the time to lay down our life for our family or whatever, our government or religion. I could list off the list of groups that we're expected to devote ourselves to. But in the end, there is no group, there's just other people. Like, religion is just priests who claim religious authority. Or the government, it's just people, it's just individuals who claim to wield the power of the state. They claim to have this authority. So when you lay your life down for the government, you're just laying your life down for the person who happens to be in charge. You're laying your life down for a human being. So, why do that? Why not lay your life down for yourself? And why not think of yourself first? And obviously, considering your own interests, being selfish, being ego-driven, this isn't all bad, because we obviously naturally care about the people we love. We naturally care about the members of our family and friends that, we have grown these relationships with. But it's not incumbent upon you, is what I'm saying, to care about a complete stranger. Why would it be? And I think that's very good, because lots of the times I think people feel shamed about not caring about everyone, or I feel like we are deprived of our natural happiness when we are told that we should care about everyone, and we should care about these people in our country. What is a country? A country is just a mass of land that is arbitrary. Why should I care about Canadians? I care about people, I care about human beings, because generally speaking they're pretty cool, but I don't care about Canadians. That doesn't mean anything to me. There are lots of Canadians who are dicks, and there are lots of Americans or whoever else, Irishmen, who are pretty cool. So to say that I'm simply for Canadians it makes absolutely no sense to me. But that's a different rant about nationalism and why I think nationalism is backwards and wrong and silly. But yeah, I want to talk about Ayn Rand. So, Ayn Rand. I think there are lots of flaws in Ayn Rand's philosophy, but what I'm really trying to say is that pretty much all moral philosophies have lots of flaws. Whenever you talk about what is moral, like whether it be serving the individual or the government or the society or a particular group of people, you always run into examples that contradict your definition of virtue, whatever it happens to be. And Ayn Rand is obviously no exception. So I do have a problem with many modern philosophers. They'll point out how Ayn Rand, she had problems with her ethics, granted, but they'll act like she has nothing to offer, and I don't think that's true. I think she has many good quotes. I think her ability to write stories is good. I like her writing. And I think she has lots of value, as do many philosophers. I don't think any philosopher is perfectly right. I've gone through many philosophers where for a long time I'm like, oh man, this guy or this girl is brilliant. I want to see the world just like they do. I want to learn everything they know. But after a while, you realize that there are aspects of them that are flawed, and that doesn't mean I stop watching them or stop learning about their information. I just take their information with a grain of salt. I realize that everyone's coming from their own perspective that may be flawed, and I think Ayn Rand is no different. I think Ayn Rand had her little issues. Like, for instance, recently I watched an interview with her on the Phil Donahue show where she went off about the Palestinians, saying that within the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians, Israel was justified in doing what they're doing because, well, the Palestinians, they're just backwards, barbaric, primitive people who haven't changed in centuries. But I mean, like, even if that's true, like, to value human life simply based on whether or not they've changed or whether or not they're technologically advanced seems insane to me. Completely insane. I think human life is derived from something different than whether or not you have a computer, for instance, or whether or not you value science. You can just live in some backwater pond catching frogs and, playing music forever, and I don't think someone has a right to take over your home or bulldoze your property and kick you out simply because they're better in some cultural aspect. There are many aspects of her philosophy that I find to be completely repulsive, but she's not special in that regard, is all I'm saying. So I'm just trying to encourage people to, I guess, number one, love yourself and don't be afraid to be a little bit self-centered, because everyone is. And number two, maybe even love Ayn Rand just a little bit, because she did have things to offer, even if she was kind of crazy sometimes. Yeah. That is all. These are all of the words that I have for today. I will bring you more words later. Peace.